That is some salt and cinnamon.
It is also extremely slow, but a standstill deck is trying to get that far. And of note, you should look at the one-ups he has. He has an Academy Ruins, a Crucible of Worlds. Those sort of play very well together, especially alongside the Factor Fiction.
Definitely. I like the 3 standstills, 1 Factor Fiction split on the card draw.
Yeah.
It means that Mack isn't like tied into the like I need to have a standstill down to draw cards. He can be behind on board and still Factor Fiction and catch back up.
Yeah, I used to remember that the landstill decks, especially around Grand Prix Providence time, used to be almost exclusively Sultai with Pernicious Steed and Jace.
Mm-hmm.
So seeing a version like this, I don't think I've actually ever seen a version like this with like 7 spot removal spells in white and red.
Yeah, wasn't it Conley that popularized the Sultai version? He like copied it at a Grand Prix with Bug Landstill, I think.
I think it was Jay Ford.
Way back in GP Columbus.
Yeah, it was Jay Ford, who's also a friend of mine, Jason Ford.
Yeah,
pretty good Magic player. We haven't seen him in a while because I think he mostly retired.
I think he. Yeah, same.
Nick also on Agrolome.
Nick Collective Brutality is a one-of. New card. Everything else is pretty classic, it looks like.
Yeah, I've seen a few of the lists on Magic Online incorporate the lands from Amonkhet, like 1 or 2 of.
Oh, okay.
They
just
cost them mana fixers, and if you dredge them, they're only a little bit worse at cycling.
Only double worse.
I mean, but the fact that they're a dual land is like actually a huge boon.
Absolutely, and I mean you do have fetch lands, so.
Yeah, exactly. So I can't say I've seen this particular matchup play out, but I know that historically, Life in the Loam is actually pretty good versus Standstill. Like, you can try to run them out of counters at some point.
Let's both draw 3.
Oh, yeah. Ancestral Recall is like how I like to call it. All right, so we have the openers from both players, and who's on the play? I think it's Nick, but it's sort of hard to tell. But Mack is on the play.
Looks like Mack's on the play, yeah.
Okay, so...
I like both of these openers.
Yeah, I definitely keep both of the hands. All right, so the question is, are we going to force this Mox Diamond, as referenced in the last The answer is actually no, because we have Engineer Explosives in our hand.
Yeah, not a whole lot of thought there, but it would actually be kind of good without the explosives. Oh, he's playing it on 1.
I mean, blind. Do you play it on 1?
Blind game 1. I think the reasoning is, I mean, he doesn't know that his opponent's on Aggro Loam, and he wants to drop a standstill on turn 2. Yeah. So this way, he just doesn't have to burn his Force of Will for a lot of potential plays from an unknown opponent. It's an interesting line for sure. I don't know if it's what I've run, but
my gut would tell me that you either do it for 1 or don't do it at all.
Yeah.
In the dark in game 1.
Well, I don't think many people would in the dark run out EE on 0.
Yeah. It takes a. You basically need Gataxian Probe in your hand to do that.
Yes. Or you'd have to know your opponent very, very well. Do you lead with Bob or Collective Brutality?
Good question.
Nick leads Bob.
Yeah, I think that's actually pretty close. You could Brutality escalating, discarding Life in the Loam, which is actually pretty sick.
And just immediately start dredging. That is pretty sick.
Ben Friedman went on record saying Brutality is one of the best cards in Legacy. It's like a split card Duress, Disfigure, Drain 2, Siphon Soul.
Yeah, I've been trying out a few in Nick Fit, and I've been not super pleased, but I mostly just want to Thoughtseize in that deck. I'd probably play 8 Thoughtseizes if I could.
Fair enough. So
I'm sorry, not Nick Fit, Tin Fins. Drastically different deck.
That makes a lot more sense. I was about to say interesting that you would try Nick Fit. It does kill your Veteran Explorer on demand.
Yeah. Duress you, kill my Veteran Explorer. That actually doesn't sound that bad.
So Mack does decide to go with the turn 2 standstill behind the Engineer Explosives. I think that's kind of a interesting decision. Would you have done it there?
Casting the standstill? Absolutely.
Yeah, because it's a queen board.
Well, you don't put standstill in your deck to not cast it, right?
Well, I mean, there are situations where you're not supposed to cast it.
I don't think this is anywhere close to that situation.
Right. Okay, so Nick immediately cracks the standstill.
Okay, yeah.
Given his hand, I think he's probably supposed to.
Oh yeah, with both the Sylvan Library and I mean he wants to be dredging this loam and drawing cards that way. I think it's absolutely fine for sure.
So we end up taking the counterspell so we can try to resolve the Sylvan Library next turn. Ooh, disaster avoided. Mack draws a fetch land. So on this turn, I predict that Nick will dredge Loam, play Loam and Sylvan Library.
That seems like a solid prediction. Oh, no dredge.
Interesting. All right.
And you'd even be getting back 3 because of a fetch too.
Yep. And also, you might just dredge past something better, you know.
That's true. Maybe he was trying to find like a threat.
Ooh, sort of brainstorm into Spell Snare is pretty good here.
Pretty ideal. The Wasteland's kind of lackluster. I might even put that on top.
Yeah.
Wasteland Bolt, shuffle it away.
Yep.
So you usually play the green-red like Dark Depths version of Loam as opposed to the aggro Loam variety that we've been seeing in this tournament.
It's colloquially called lands because there's a lot of them in the deck.
Yeah. What do you think is the reason these players are picking the aggro Loam version?
I think the aggro Loam version is slightly more resilient, and like it just has a lot more good cards in it instead of a lot of moving pieces. Like it has Liliana the Veil, has Dark Confidant, has Abrupt Decay, has Night of the Reliquary. Lands has it's like a combo prison deck, so it has a bunch of like weird cards in it that aren't necessarily good all the time.
Interesting.
Like Glacial Chasm would not be particularly good in this matchup, for example.
Wastelanding your opponent that has Loam in the graveyard.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
Well, he hasn't been dredging the Loam.
I mean, so on Magic Online, you can't actually forget it's there because it pauses you in your draw step.
And like glows. There's this glowing thing during your draw step. Would you like to dredge?
The plan here is to try to draw a threat, but that seems kind of odd. If you dredge Loam, you will eventually hit a cycling land, which is very, very, very good with your life in the Loam, and will draw you into threats.
Yeah. It's not like you don't have time, right? So against land still, it's like not like you're under some fast pressure where you need something immediately.
Ooh, Dryad Arbor is a cute way to potentially force a landstill player to crack their standstill. I mean, it's unlikely to work because of Mishra's Factory, but you know, it is.
But like a Dryad, I mean, you do have Wastelands in your deck as well, so if you can
you do get into these funny fights over like creature lands and wastelands, and you know, it's just a very, very interesting matchup. The guy I team with in Louisville who played Blue Black Landstill is actually in chat. And he's having a blast there.
The guy?
Yeah. His name is Aaron Kasprax.
Okay.
AKA Hyperion1 in the chat.
I think I recognize that username.
Crucible of Worlds. That's fantastic.
It's pretty good.
Yeah.
Crucible versus Life from the Loam.
I mean, Crucible is a little bit better because it does not really replace your draw step. But like, Loam can draw you like a bunch of cycling lands.
I'm kind of surprised that Nick didn't go for the Liliana on his turn.
So he didn't go for it because I think he knew about Snapcaster Counterspell, right? But the problem is, if you're not doing that, what is your actual plan in the match?
Like 14 more attacks.
Well, the problem is he's going to have Snapcaster Counterspell for the entire match, and if he really wants to, he can just run out Snapcaster Brainstorm to block at some point.
Or just bolt the thing. But yeah.
I think you kind of have to do something at some point.
That is usually how games are won. Something at some point. Fires off that wasteland.
This is going to force the bolt out. So one good thing about this is we now cannot Snapcaster Counterspell. So we might see the Liliana here, because then that forces the force pitching snap.
I don't think I would force. I think I would snap bolt, but yeah.
Right, the actual alternative play is to discard force, play Snapcaster, flashbacking bolt, and attack Liliana.
It's a little bit better.
Yeah.
I like how he ran out the Caracas instead of playing Mox Diamond discard Caracas, because this gives him something to discard to the uptick.
Yep.
Probably wants to hold on to the Decay for now.
The Decay actually quite good versus the Crucible that we know is working on top of Mack's deck. But
I suppose if he fetches with the Flooded Strand, then he loses the Crucible, huh?
Yeah, I think you're possibly okay giving it up here, though. And in fact, what might actually happen is we might just let the Liliana go for a turn, play the Crucible, and get a land drop off of it at least.
That starts to get kind of iffy, letting them untap with Lily, because then maybe they can protect it.
Yeah, I mean, we know that you probably should play Snapcaster, and in fact, he does that. But remember, Mack doesn't have perfect information all the time.
Absolutely.
He has to kind of just work off of his intuition. Getting Plateau, which complements the islands very nicely, because it fixes both of his other two colors. This Explosives, though, is kind of the saddest Explosives I've seen in a long time.
I think, speaking of haven't seen it in a long time, I don't think I've seen a Plateau in play in a very long time.
Yeah, typically nowadays you only see it in like white-red painter. It used to be stock in like almost every Jeskai control deck.
Yeah, or like the Geist tempo decks that people tried playing for a bit.
Oh yeah, yeah. All right, so Liliana goes down. So I wonder now if Nick will start dredging his loam.
Oh yeah, you gotta get the Dryad Arbor out so that it can answer the Snapcaster.
All right, so he dredges loam.
Is that a cycling land too? Can you tell what the top land in the graveyard is?
It is Baron Moor.
Oh man.
So this is effectively a draw 3.
Yeah, this is a great loam.
He gets Maze, Wasteland, Maze? Or Maze, Wasteland, Dryad Arbor. So we're going to Wasteland the Plateau?
I think so. I don't really understand the... Oh, okay. I really don't understand getting back Maze there instead of Baron Moor.
Yeah, my gut tells me that I would get back Baron Moor because you can just cycle to get like a natural draw every turn as well.
Yeah. Maybe Nick doesn't like drawing cards. Not everybody has to like drawing cards.
Oh yeah, there are some people who play like Chains of Mephistopheles and
Chains is sweet. The first time I had an opponent on Moto just like look at just like not even read it and just snap like brainstorm with a Jason play, it was the best feeling. Because they're just you get the pauses. You get the pause before each draw. It's like, why is Moto telling me to do this? Because they still don't know what the Chains is.
Ooh, Dryad Arbor getting in for damage.
12 more turns. 12 more turns. That's like not even that many turns.
Yeah, it's not that many turns. Really, it's. We should just call it now. Ooh, Mack finally in the mode where he can start casting traumatic visions every turn.
Another Lily is not bad.
Another Liliana is quite good.
Probably gonna eat a Force of Will.
Yeah. So if you're Nick, do you Wasteland first?
Yeah, I would probably Wasteland in combat here.
Yeah, you have to Wasteland in combat if you're going to cast Lily this turn. Oh yeah, this is not really gonna work anymore.
Oh no.
First Traumatic Visions cast.
Oh, is that the land cycling counter or whatever?
Yes. It costs 5 and has 1 in a blue basic land cycling.
Oh, Swords to Plowshares can hard answer a Dryad Arbor.
Yeah, unless if you Wasteland it. Do you remember when like lands decks used to do that to protect their creature lands? It's ancient magic.
I once beat lands with Zoo after boarding in Submerge because I thought it was better than Swords to Plowshares. And my land's opponent didn't actually have a forest in play. And they were attacking me and beating me down with a treetop village. And it could like trade with my Nicotals and stuff, and it was like super relevant. And then they ghost quartered themselves to find a forest because they wanted one more land in the graveyard for Life from the Loam. They wanted like a full loam.
Yeah.
Anyway, and then the Submerge was quite good, weirdly.
That's kind of sweet. Ooh, a Snapcaster off the top. So basically, I don't foresee Mack winning this game unless if he draws Jace at some point.
I'm surprised the Swords to Plowshares isn't. Well, I guess it's not that surprising that Swords to Plowshares isn't getting pointed at the land, but
I think he's saving it for like a night.
Yeah.
But we see a Dredged Loam again.
The Arbor just seems like it's gonna need to have some kind of an answer to it eventually, right? Like, because he can always loam it back.
Right. So maybe you should just plow it sooner rather than later. Are we going to see Snapcaster Snare here?
I kind of like it, because otherwise the Caracas is getting wastelanded, and then you no longer have access to white mana.
Yeah.
It's kind of gnarly.
Huh, he lets it go. So we're kind of seeing why Life from the Loam is so powerful. Like, it just keeps coming back. It's hard to counterspell something like 10 times in one game.
Yeah. It's like it's a tempo play, and it's not great. But you still kind of have to do it.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
He's opting to use Snapcaster to flashback Brainstorm instead of plowing the Arbor.
Yeah.
I think he kind of realizes that he needs to find like basic planes.
Yeah.
Or base or something, because this game is going to go downhill very quickly if we just get to loam every turn.
I think Jace is Mack's only real route to victory here. Well, this is not bad.
Oh, again. Remember we put it back a long time ago?
I do remember, yes.
Unfortunately, the Abrupt Decay is still there, but I don't think Mack can really get around that. Because there's like no targets for Abrupt Decay in his deck.
If there is a basic Plains in the deck, the Flooded Strand can find it. There's a Flooded Strand in the graveyard?
Yep. I mean, I just assume there's like every fetch land in the graveyard by this point, which might be a bad assumption. Yeah, this is definitely a... Before Miracle is going to draws, standstill.
Oh, there is not a basic Plains in the deck.
Oh, wow. No basic Plains is...
No basic Plains, no basic Mountain, none of that nonsense.
Well, basic Mountain is generally a lot worse than basic Plains because of
for Blood Moon, yeah. I think by nature of fitting like wastelands and creature lands, and you mentioned the Get Back and Artifact land too, Academy Ruins.
Yeah.
By nature of like fitting in on all those colorless sources, maybe Mack deck, because it's a 3-color control deck, maybe it just like can't afford to run that many non-island basics.
That certainly makes sense. It might punish him at some point this game.
At some point, specifically this next turn. Specifically right now, it might punish him.
It's actually like it takes 2 wastelands to get rid of that Tarn, so it's not that big of a deal.
Grove's Punishing Fire. We found a win condition. Also a way to chew through a Jace.
Yeah.
Not an answer to Keranos, though. Keranos is actually kind of scary.
I think Mack is just hoping to slam the Keranos and just like try to nug his opponent 7 times. Like both modes are good versus that deck.
Agreed.
Too bad we can't get 7 Devotion. I don't think it's possible in his main deck. That was actually my favorite, like attacking with Keranos, and like the Grixis control-y decks in Modern.
It happened in Legacy every once in a while, right? When Miracles was sideboarding a Keranos for a minute.
You need 3 counterbalances, or counterbalance.
Well, there's Jace, Counterbalance, and Vendilion Click.
Oh yeah. That thing ends games real fast. It's a 6/5.
Yeah, they stopped sideboarding it for some reason.
Everyone was bringing like 1,000 blasts in the mirror.
Yeah.
Like 5 mana sorcery that gets blasted, not really where you wanted to be anymore. Oh, there goes Crucible. Womp womp. Yeah, that Crucible is basically born dead.
There's probably some word for that, some technical term.
Might be DOA.
When something's born all still like that. Oh well.
Chat says they want to see Keranos bounced by Karakas. I think that's extremely unlikely in this game. Oop, there's a 5th land for Keranos. Definitely coming down.
Oh man. Mack's coming back in.
Keranos actually quite good versus all of the opposing planeswalkers too. Like that thing just eats up planeswalkers.
It does. Eats planeswalkers, eats life totals, eats creatures. Num 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 num.
Yep. It has a lot of fun doing so. Oh, I think the other reason people stopped playing Keranos was Council's Judgment.
Oh, that's right. I was thinking there was like some way to just exile the thing that there wasn't before, but I couldn't remember.
Oh, there goes the Volcanic. All right. 3 damage, and we're going to slam that Jace.
Definitely.
So, interestingly, we can also just start making sure we bolt every turn if we really want to. I think that actually is like a good game plan here because
you do it with upticks though, right? Always fate sealing the opponent. I would just be scrying, like you said, give yourself like a slightly better chance of getting a bolt while also like getting the Jace out of punishing fire range.
And the other reason to do it on yourself is Nick has Life from the Loam, So if you just leave it on top, he can just dredge loam.
Exactly. Great point.
All right, Punching Fire only does 40% of Jace's loyalty.
Do you like just going to the face?
No,
it's only like nine Punishing Fires.
I mean, Mack is at 9, but I'm pretty sure we can try to outgrind Keranos. Or sorry, we can't really outgrind Keranos plus Jace before we die by trying to Punching Fire our opponent to death. I guess it's kind of close, actually. But yeah, so I think Scrying was...
I think it depends on how often the Keranos draws a card.
That is a bolt.
That's a double bolt.
That's a bolt that Keranos has to do.
Assuming that Mack finds another red source, of course.
I mean, at some point we can just... There's the Factor Fiction! Do you actually think there was merit to keeping both of the bolts and just putting back, like, Brainstorm Jason casting Factor Fiction?
Well, it might be real hard to actually cast both bolts, right? Because we've already lost some red sources. There's, like, a plateau and a volcanic island in our graveyard. Or there's 2 volcanic islands in our graveyard. And a plateau. And the Crucible. So, like, how many red sources are left in the deck? Not very many, right? Like, maybe 1. I don't think you're casting 2 bolts. You might cast 1.
Maybe he's out then.
He might be out.
Well, let's go consult real quick.
Oh, yeah, I suppose I can just look at this deck list that's right next to me. Yeah, that's all of it. That's all the red sources.
Okay, so the bolts are completely dead cards now.
So to answer your question, Jarvis, I disagree. I don't think there's much merit to holding the lightning bolts in hand.
Good point.
But there's no harm in asking questions, right? There's no bad questions.
There's no bad questions. Oh man, this is going to be this is getting close.
Is it?
No, actually, I think Mack steamroll his opponent now.
Yeah, I think the Keranos is going to go unanswered here.
Yeah,
really.
There's no answer in the aggro main deck to this Keranos.
Were you checking?
Yeah, there's no answer. He basically has to kill his opponent to kill Keranos.
Yep. And Night of the Reliquary isn't really an answer because it just gets bounced by the onboard Jace.
Yeah.
Is there an answer post board? Golgari Charm doesn't hit it. Rex Sage doesn't get it.
No, the way this aggro deck is built, and most of them are built, I don't think they can kill Keranos, which is fine.
I think the game plan is not built with Keranos in mind.
No, the better game plan I think is to keep them off 5 mana.
Right.
Or like Liliana them, or just really make their life annoying before they can cast Keranos.
And it's such an obscure card. It's not a card you see very often.
I have not seen this card in a very long time. All right, so Mack lets the Jace go because he just has another one lined up.
In a field with way fewer council's judgments, though, it does make sense. It seems like a smart pick.
Ooh, there's the Academy Ruins. We can still play.
Oh, we can get back the Crucible. Which will get us a red source.
We can Lightning Bolt our opponent again.
Once. We can Lightning Bolt them, once.
No, we can Lightning Bolt them a bunch of times. It'll just take forever to do so.
No, because the Abrupt Decay can answer Crucible again.
Yeah, but then you just ruins it back again.
No, you waste the ruins first, and then you Abrupt Decay the the Crucible.
Sure. Oh, why are you killing my dreams here?
So hey, some dreams need to be killed. We can't just have an excess population of dreams running amok. We need to quell the herd.
All I'm saying is that I just want to see a bunch of lightning bolts. For no particular reason. I mean, Keranos is basically an infinite supply of lightning bolts.
Yeah, look at that art. Oh, the art on Keranos is so sick. The big purple god, just a pile of lightning. Oh, man.
Chad is asking, he's playing 4 islands and no other basics. I believe that is correct.
That is correct.
That is an adventurous mana base.
Yeah, well, you're playing a 3-color mana base with 4 colorless lands and a Caracas. Like, you could maybe play another basic if you don't play Caracas, which kind of makes sense, actually. Yep. Plains might be better. But, I mean, that's kind of the risk to reward, right?
Yep. All right. Nick finally packs it into the Keranos, the bolt machine, as I like to call him.
Whoa, Canonists are coming in? Against land still?
That's interesting. So, typically, the cards you would want to bring in this matchup are the European lists tended to have a bunch of like 4-mana planeswalkers in their sideboard.
Oh, interesting.
I didn't
like which ones?
Arlen Cord, Garrett Relentless.
Okay.
I don't see any of those here, so the options are kind of limited.
Yeah, it's like
in the Ghost Quarter though.
Yeah, I like that. Especially when you see that your opponent only has 4 basics. I like the Ghost Quarter. I would consider the ley lines and then probably not bring them in, but I might.
Yeah, I would bring in Rexage and
the ley lines shut off Light from the Crucible of Worlds and the Snapcasters, but
yeah. Whoa.
You might actually get to cast it in this deck.
Hold on, he's shaving a Mox Diamond. Okay, he's unshaving the Mox Diamond.
Unshaving.
Mox Diamond is like in all of the best draws of this deck.
Yeah, I really dislike shaving Punishing Fire in this matchup too. It's really good at chewing through Jaces, and it can actually be a win condition if your opponent's slow enough.
I think the card I would tend to take out is Mazavith.
Okay, yeah, I agree.
So similar to the land sideboarding, defensive lands are not great in matchups like these.
What do you think the reasoning is behind the Canonist? Just that it's good against Snapcaster?
Yeah. It's also just like another beater to try to get under like standstill.
Sure. Wants to say threat dense. He's on the play. Meanwhile, his opponent is boarding in a couple of wear and tears, so that might be awkward. Is that 3 engineered explosives?
The thing is, you don't know what kind of like hate permanence your opponent has. So wear tear is a good catch-all to like choke or something somewhere like that.
Absolutely, and I mean it's got some live targets in the Moxes and the Sylvan Library, and he saw Moxes and Sylvan Library, so
yeah, I think that is definitely like a reasonable card to side in.
I was mostly pointing out that he was boarding in an artifact creature, and his opponent was boarding in wear and tears, so it was like a little.
Oh, that is actually pretty awesome. All right, so we have a turn 1 Mox anyways.
This Loam looks kind of good.
You should cast Loam here, right?
I think so.
It's actually pretty close, I think.
I don't think Canonist is bad if you're going to play it on. I mean, if it's in your deck and you can play it on turn 1, I don't think it's a bad turn 1 line.
Yeah.
But I would like to start dredging sooner rather than later, especially with the Punishing Fire in hand. It's just a much more resilient win condition.
All right, so Mack knows his opponent sided in Aethersworn Canonist because it's extremely unlikely that anyone actually would play that in their main deck.
Truth.
Most of the field is like 5 Stormringers, you know. Ooh.
No dredge necessary.
Yeah. All right, so we're going to get the beatdown on.
That's two less turns of Punishing Fire. That's what that is.
Actually killing your opponent with Punishing Fire is not the fastest.
I've done it a lot.
I probably have done it more than you have, because when you have Glacial Chasm Lock versus Burn, you can't actually attack your opponent.
Yeah, the matchup I've done it the most in is probably Jund versus Miracles, which I've played the matchup a decent amount, but I agree that you have probably done it more than I have. I'm not contesting that.
Yeah, it's just that when you actually have to do that versus burn, it takes a long time.
Everything takes longer on Moto too. You got all these like clicks and triggers and.
All right, so Nick is basically priced into cracking the standstill again. I would crack it with life from the loam, I think.
I think you could also chill here. Your opponent's got 5 cards. Wait until they get up to 7, then crack it. I think that would be fine. The problem is that you're not making land drops in your opponent.
Yeah,
maybe they are, but
that's why I would lean towards cracking it here.
5 cards is like that sweet spot where you could like make an argument for both sides, I think.
Yep, so Mack has gotten to cast 1 in a blue, draw 3 twice. Once this game and once last game.
At least Nick gets to draw 2 off the deal.
Yeah, drawing 2 is just empirically worse than drawing 3. Like, Mack doesn't even have to force here. He can just snap plow, right?
Yes, that appears to be the plan.
And that also gets enough cards out of his hand so he doesn't have to discard. So everything's turning up well for Mack.
I'm going to apologize to the chat because there's going to be a sound of a can opening.
Sound of
Caleb.
can opening.
Caleb needs his coffee.
Oh. Coffee is good.
Coffee is great.
All right. So seems like the momentum is squarely in Mack's favor right now. There's the maze event.
Kind of. I'm not surprised. I'm again surprised that Nick didn't dredge back the light from the loam. And then like the punishing fire gets to like freelow clear the Snapcaster Mage, so that wasn't value necessarily. And it can also grind down a Jace really well. So Mack does have a lot of counters and a lot of land drops and tools, but if you put up Punishing Fire plus Grove against all of them, if Nick just has the time to do that, then I mean the Punishing Fire plus Grove looks pretty good. But we'll see.
The problem with Punishing Fire plus Grove, just one Grove and one Punishing Fire, is it doesn't actually outgrind Jace scrying every turn. Essentially,
I mean, it trades evenly with it, but that's also why I would be dredging the loam, right?
I mean, eventually, if someone has Graveyard Hate in their deck, they'll get your Punching Fire.
True.
Unless you draw a second Grove by that point, obviously, but...
I guess, yeah.
Yeah, and Max smartly goes on the Scry plan because it doesn't make sense to try to Fate Seal someone who has Life from the Loam in the graveyard.
Correct. And you definitely don't want to brainstorm when you know that your opponent has...
Oh, no. Yeah, the brainstorming is excessively greedy for very little gain.
The risk to reward, just not there.
You don't even get that much reward.
I guess the Arbor is... I didn't rebuy Punishing Fire.
Yeah, so the reason not to rebuy is to play around Surgical. But the problem is you need to, like... I think it's really unlikely Mack had Surgical in his hand. Otherwise, he probably would have fired it off on the loam.
Mm-hmm. True. It's also, like, the risk to reward here is, like, you can't just sit here and not pressure the opposing Jace. You can't just, like, let them have a Jace. I think you need that tool. It's not like an option of, like, well, maybe I can play around something else.
Wow.
Surgical, though.
There's a Surgical. But yeah, I would definitely just brainstorm here, especially once you've drawn the Surgical. That's just like draw. And this can be like a perfect brainstorm if he plays Crucible and then plays the fetch land from his graveyard. I think we see that.
What a good Jace Storm.
Yeah, Jace Storm.
Yeah, that was insane. Yeah. Crucible plus Surgical.
Yeah, those pretty much the nuts right here.
plus counters.
So I think by this point, seeing the Jace on 4, you're almost incentivized to just return the punching fire. Right? Because that's just 2 punching fires.
Yeah.
And the surgical is almost certainly going to happen here. It's going to make it really hard for Nick to win now, I think. Because like Jace can literally just brainstorm until every creature Nick plays dies to like swords or bolts or whatever, or counter spells.
Agreed. This is pretty locked up. Can we possibly even think of a way for Nick to come back into the game?
I can come up with very convoluted scenarios that involve cards that are not in his 75.
Yeah, right? Like cards that are just not in there.
Yeah, like planar cleansing. Boseiju planar cleansing is the one I was thinking of.
I've ground through Jace with Liliana a few times. Like the person keeps making land drops and then you like get their things, but it's just so unlikely.
It is extremely unlikely. I would say that you probably got lucky a bunch of those times when that happened. Obliterate.
I think it's kind of matchup dependent.
Yeah. The problem with Obliterate is that it doesn't actually kill Jace. I don't know if you know this. There are standard flashback queues right now, and I actually did a whole deck that had 2 Obliterate in it.
There's just 1 in the Fires deck sideboard, right?
There's 2 in Burning Slide.
Oh, okay.
It's just white-red slide with Burning Wishes. And
leaving enchantments behind is highly amusing.
Oh, in that deck, yes.
I cast Obliterate once in a cube, and I left myself with Bitter Blossom, and very, very nearly still lost the game.
Oh, yeah, if you're at a low enough life total, the Blossom will kill you before...
I was at like 7, and then my opponent hit a land drop or 2, but I still got there. Like 2 life or something.
Fair enough. So Nick dredged Loam, casted for 2 lands that don't do much, but I think he'll probably just keep dredging Loam, trying to find cyclers to try to find. I'm not sure what his outs are by this point because I didn't see like Maelstrom Pulse or Vindicate or anything like that.
Yeah, those are not cards. Those are not cards in this deck.
Yeah, and also your opponent's just brainstorming every turn. Like the likelihood he'll just have like a counter wall at some point is going to be like massive. Also, Mack can Snapcaster Surgical now.
So if you could pick any deck in Legacy to play against this blue-white-red Landstill deck, like let's just like hypothesize what sort of deck, if you were on Nick's side going into the next match, what sort of deck would you like to play against this?
I actually think like red Stompy decks look pretty good versus this deck.
There's something with Blood Moon.
Yeah, Blood Moon. Well, like look at his mana base. It's just 4 islands.
It's just 4 islands.
I mean, if assuming you resolve a Blood Moon, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, the thing is the 4 islands are pretty good though because the only color spells in Mack's deck are the Swords to Plowshares and the Lightning Bolts, right?
Yep.
And like the Keranos, so I guess there's a 1-of Supreme Verdict, but that's not a big deal.
Yep. So Snapcaster Surgical and Loam basically cuts off all of his grinding aspects. So now we just have to take a draw step every turn versus an opponent who has draw step plus a Jace activation.
Yes.
I think that this one is almost nearly in the books now.
Agreed. Yeah, Jace is just gonna do its sweet thing. There's a reason I'm starting to talk about the next match. Like,
yeah, that's fair. I actually think lands is probably pretty good versus this deck. If I had to guess,
you would think that. No, I agree.
So here are the strengths of lands. You can copy their manlands, which actually comes up a fair amount, and you have so many land drops that you can theoretically force them to crack their own standstill as a fair portion.
Yes, standstill seems like a dead card, almost like something that you would hold to pitch on to force of will from the land still perspective. Because you mentioned copying, and then there's also like ports plus wastelands versus just a couple of wastelands.
Yep. And also, if you just make a 20/20, they generally have to cast a spell to kill that.
I think the only time I've won from like decks like this against lands is involved cards like Rest in Peace and stuff. Rest in Peace plus Jace nonsense like that.
Yeah, I remember there were one or two guys playing lands. They got so sick of Rest in Peace that they just sided in like 3 Helm of Obedience.
Amazing.
Yeah, I mean
that's thinking ahead. Corrosive Grip, who needs that? I'll pay one more mana.
Well, you actually pay like 2 more mana.
Oh, you're counting the one to activate? You can split that up, though. That's fine.
Well, you can try to split that up and hope you don't get Disenchanted or War Tour.
War Tour. It sounds like WAR almost. Like that split.
All right.
And that's the match. That is the match.
Yes, I did. Jace is still greater than all. You heard it here, boys and gals.
Although Keranos did more work in the first game.
Oh yeah. Keranos is like a miniature Jace. Instead of brainstorming, you just get bolts or draw a card every turn.
A miniature Jace? More like a supersized Jace. More like a Jace on some weird lightning drug. Anyway.
Anyways, let's see.
I think I might be getting swapped out here. Maybe I'm not. Okay, Julian's going to come back in and join you here, Jarvis. I'll miss you. Will you think of me? Will you think of me during the next commentary pair?
Yep, I will always think of you, Caleb. You and your Ventines.
Everyone, I'm back with Jarvis. And
left.
Yeah, you never left. We are looking forward to what Nick is going to select. And Nick actually selects, the monstrosity that we decided to call Bug 3-drops. That's the deck that he used in the group stage, where he actually got first place over players such as BBD. Is he the current world champion? I think so. So
Brian is still the current world champion. He's currently not invited to Worlds, which is, I think, a travesty.
Oh, that's really weird.
Yeah, that is. But he did beat me and Julian. Me and Brian. Me and Brian in the group stage. And I think he lost to Brett? Oh, no, he lost to Brian, actually, right?
Yeah, and he managed to beat you and Brett.
Yep.
And now he's in this quarterfinals down a match against Mack. And basically what his deck is trying to do, he's got 7 1-drops, 7 elves that accelerate him into either, say, True Name Nemesis or Leovold, or I think he also got 3 Lilianas. And if that doesn't work, like if he actually doesn't hit a 1-drop, he can still like run out on turn 2 Tarmogoyf and then protect it like with Force, and he has a bunch of removal. So he's pretty much a mid-range deck that just tries to bum rush you, I would say.
So actually his deck is basically a modified version of the deck that Reed Duke won Grand Prix Louisville with. The like Sultai 3-drops decks. I think Reed had less Tarmogoyfs and no Baleful Strixes, but they're very close in deck lists.
Yeah. The concept is very similar. And this game, he's going to run out a True Name Nemesis, and it looks like it's going to resolve, and that's going to be a problem for Mack until he gets to something like Engineered Explosives for 3. But once he actually gets there, if he manages to hit 2 True Name Nemesis, that would be insane.
Supreme Verdict, I think, is his cleanest answer to Nick's hand, because you also can't force a will Supreme Verdict.
Yeah. And that actually would trade 3 for 1, which would be absolutely insane here. Maybe even 4 for 1 if Nick gets really greedy. The thing is, as far as I remember, he only runs a single Supreme Verdict.
Yep.
So this could be problematic. And now that Engineer Explosives is also on the battlefield, I really like Nick's position here. Now that the pressure is all on Mack, he needs to come up with something. He needs to find his Engineered Explosives. And it's going to be hard. I could actually see Nick holding on to that Forcible because he really doesn't know which kind of removal Mack has. I guess he expects Supreme Verdict at some point, so he might not run on the second True Name Nemesis. But on the other hand, he could do so because the clock would increase drastically. At that point,
right? I think Nick has a lot of information from the previous 2 games, which is kind of key. But he did not see the Supreme Verdict.
True.
Also, Mack fetched Basic Island, right, off of his fetch land. So Verdict isn't even really a possibility for quite a while.
Oh, yeah. He still needs 2 white sources, which are going to be really tough to get. We saw him struggle to get a single white source in the last game. And, yeah.
Yeah, I think these True Names... Also, look at the lands he has for Engineer Explosives currently. He can technically cast an Explosives for 3, but not for 3 colors.
Yeah. Once again, looking for the white source.
Yeah.
And so he can counterspell the True Name Nemesis should it come down, but I think that if Nick plays anything, he's gonna play the Noble Hierarch. Actually, oh no, because there's no instant sorceries in the graveyard, so he's not playing the Hierarch because that would allow him to keep up the Deathfire Shaman. But if nothing happens, the Deathfire Shaman might just die at end of turn. Or, I don't know.
But I think putting another 1-drop into the Explosives for 1 doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, the thing is, the current 1-drop doesn't really do anything, and Mack knows that.
I think Mack basically just has to counterspell almost anything Nick plays here.
Yeah, and he needs the Brainstorm to find Supreme Verdict, which is going to be really tough for him. I don't like playing the Wasteland there. He's behind on board. And he needs to come up with something.
He Wastelanded to try to cut Nick off of mana.
I see. I mean, I see where he's going with that, but...
Yeah, I think that's... When your opponent is likely to have... Well, I guess he doesn't know that Nick has Noble Hierarch in his deck yet. But you've already seen Deathrite, so... And also, your opponent was not incentivized to play second Deathrite for any reason last turn.
Yeah.
It seems like a very aggressive play.
And also, looking at the cards he has seen thus far, he can very much expect that this is probably the deck that Nick also played in the group stage. So he knows that there's 7 1-drops, or he can at least make a reasonable guess for it to be there.
Yeah.
So, yeah, this is going to be really tough. He needs to hit 2 land drops in a row, and both of them must be able to produce white and find the Supreme Verdict.
Yeah, it's going to be a tough one.
I mean, technically he could try to run out the Engineered Explosives for 3 and then pass the turn here, but would Nick count as Forcible that? Because he can just play another True Name Nemesis if he wants to, but then his force isn't live either way.
The reason to force it is it's worth a bunch of damage to force it, because suppose you let it resolve, you attack for 4, then you can't play another one, then I mean Mack just takes another 4 damage and doesn't really care, and has a clean board.
I
think I would have forced it because it just buys a lot of tempo, but
yeah, I like force. Yeah, you're right, because you don't really have another play. As you mentioned, you can't really run out the True Name Nemesis at this point.
Yeah, now
that would be like suicide.
Right. Just running on True Name now is just actively bad.
Yeah.
So he's going to play Deathrite this turn, and it will help fix half the colors for the Liliana that's stuck in his hand.
Mm-hmm. But I guess Mack is gonna Salt the Plowshares, the Deathrite Gem, before it becomes active. Like 7 is already quite a low life total, even though Nick doesn't have reach in his deck, except for like Deathrite, which is slow.
Kind of wonder if Mack is supposed to be brainstorming a little bit more aggressively.
Yeah, I was wondering the same earlier when he went for the mana denial plan.
Yeah.
No, he can't. No. Okay, so I guess he's just gonna pass here and then blow the engine explosives during. Oh, he's blowing them right away. Okay. I mean, probably doesn't make too much of a difference, does it?
It does make a difference because
he's not representing counterspell, but you wouldn't play that before combat.
Not even that. If Nick drew a land, he could just attack for 1 and then play his True Name. I think the 1 damage is irrelevant. But Nick didn't draw a land, so Nick is just going to play this card that's a 2-turn clock. Ooh,
the force is actually really good here. Because we already know that Nick won't be able to play Liliana next turn, and Force isn't doing anything, and even Chitte is not gonna be that good in the face of Snapcaster Mage into Swords to Plowshares if need be.
Yeah, if I'm Mack here, I just ship and try to block with Mishra's Factory. Also, typically Sultai, Bug, doesn't have that many answers to like a creature land.
Yeah, I guess he could have a couple of Wastelands, but that's it.
Yeah, a couple of Wastelands, but like most of the removal spell, like Abrupt Decay specifically says non-land on it, so.
Mm-hmm.
Chat saying Liliana is slightly hard to cast at the moment. It's definitely true.
Did Nick shuffle? I think I didn't see the cards from the Ponder. Yeah. Oh yeah, he shuffled. Okay, unfortunately, well, I guess he could have drawn worse cards than the Force, but forcing. What do you mean?
Sorry, I don't think Mack really cares about this GT. It's like kind of a whatever. The GT is not going to kill Mack. Other creatures are going to.
Is he going to counterspell it? I guess so.
Interesting. Yeah, that's a good way to get counterspell out of Mack, I suppose. I would have been inclined to let it go.
Hey, Gobo Hunter. Saw him in the chat. So.
Standstill. Massive pickup here.
Oh, yes.
So you tap the plateau, right? Because if you're drawing a counterspell,
you want to pick up the counterspell. Yeah. And Nick he lets it resolve. He's like, yeah, I'm just going to use those Force of Wills to defend a key spell, and I hope you whiff of your standstill draw. But I guess if you expected Mack to whiff of the standstill draw, then you might as well counter it, because then the top 3 cards are also like blanks.
Yeah, I think I actually would have forced it there.
Yeah, it seems reasonable, especially since you're expecting the game to still go long. Like at this point, I don't think you can like tempo him out anymore once the Mishra's Factory and the Snapcaster Mage is on board.
Correct. Yeah, that was my reasoning too. Wow, the Keranos is making an appearance again. that is going to get
your copies while you can.
It provides a. Oh no, there's already enchantment in the graveyard for Tarmogoyf because of Standstill.
Yeah, that's a pretty huge Tarmogoyf.
Wow, the Tarmogoyf might actually kill Mack.
He's got Lightning Bolt and a 3/3 Factory. Right, if he trades everything for the Tarmogoyf, but no, the Tarmogoyf got yeah. If he trades everything for the Tarmogoyf, he can do it, but that's like super risky.
Well, he apparently just went after the Hierarch instead.
I mean, you can mana deny him pretty hard here at this point, especially since I think Nick didn't play a land, he didn't pick one up, so he knows that Mack knows that Nick is Brainstorm block for the next 2 turns. But yeah, he just runs out the Keranos and hopes to get there with the Keranos, which can be kind of tricky. Like, I actually don't hate Nick's position now with the Force of Will. Do we know?
Right, because we just have to chump block every turn.
Yeah.
Like, the Goyf is actually the Abyss.
Yeah, the Abyss mode.
The Abyss mode. It happens a lot with Tarmogoyf. That thing is just...
It's giant.
Goyf, all right. A very angry Lorgoyf. I mean, one Swords to Plowshares and Mack is completely fine, but...
Yeah, even Chase would do it.
Yeah, Jace would also do it. Oh boy.
The Tarmogoyf demands a sacrifice.
Yeah, that sacrifices Snapcaster Mage.
Even the Deathlight Gem can get annoying if Nick eventually manages to find a Black Source.
Yeah, we're only at 5 life. That's not very much.
Yeah. Oh, there's Chase.
So
That's
Jace
big.
will balance Tarmogoyf, which forces Nick to spend his entire turn to recast it. Then we Spell Snare.
That's perfect.
Yeah.
Couldn't have drawn it up better.
But so the one thing that's impressive about this bug deck is that its threats are just so high quality. Like a single threat, if it's there, hits for so much damage.
This is the opposite of an elf deck. It's like,
oh yeah,
you got 1-2 creatures, they don't matter.
No, so this is how Reed builds his decks. All of his creatures are really good at fighting.
Just feels like the same concept behind Modern Death Shadow. Like, all the creatures you have, they are giant, they are big, they are important. They demand sacrifices.
It's probably closer to like not a big Naya Zoo deck, if I had to guess.
Yeah.
If that makes sense to you.
Yeah. I remember when like people tried Naya Zoo in Legacy, but never really made it work. But I recently played against 4-color but basically Barn splashing red Zoo in Legacy, and it was actually quite good. But yeah, it was more like a hate bear deck.
Hmm.
I think Menguchi actually played that on Trying to Fireball a while ago.
That makes sense. So the Spell Center thing happened, but there is black mana for their death right now, so we need to worry somewhat about our life total.
I think I still like brainstorming here because it's 3 activations that will take us down as opposed to 2. And even if it was just 2, you could wait a turn if you really wanted to. And he's got Snapcaster Mage, Swords to Plowshares now. Oh, this looks pretty over.
It does. Also, Nick is missing a color of mana, if you notice.
Yeah. Nick has been missing a ton this game, as in certain cards, but he almost managed to come back.
Ooh, Lightning Bolt. Yeah, it's actually better to use the Lightning Bolt. So you can save...
You might need the Swords later,
yeah. Just bouncing our Snapcaster with Jace might come up.
But yeah, that's a very good point.
But yeah, it's going to take a while to kill our opponent, but Mack is firmly in the driver's seat.
Yeah, this is... I mean, what could Nick even do here to come back? Like, if he chains a couple of Tarmogoyfs, but those are going to get counterspelled, Spell Snared, and Snapcaster Mage Swords to Plowshared.
Yep.
And sooner or later, he's also going to lose his Bayou, but I guess he can draw more lands. But
or Mack is just going to start attacking for 4 every turn now.
That should actually end it pretty quickly.
Yeah, it's a 4-turn clock.
Imagine if Chase had like a secret mode where he can also like Gideon it up and get into the red zone. He's like, this is taking too long. I'm going to finish the game on my own.
Yeah, Jace is already greater than all. We don't need to put more words on it.
And Nick keeps drawing cards he unfortunately can't cast.
Yeah.
I wonder what the sideboarding is gonna be like. Like Nick already has a lot of value in his deck and like heavy hitting value, and not just like random value. And if he gets it to a point where Mack is like always behind tempo wise, always has to do plays he doesn't want to do, and can't really generate a lot of card advantage or get into a position where he can resolve chase, then I can see Nick taking this. And one of the cards Mack definitely doesn't want to see is Leopold, which is also a really cool card.
So the thing about Leopold is that it's actually a blue card, so blasts are actually good versus this bug 3-drop stack.
That's true. And blasts are also what you want to have against the true name nemesis. So,
yep.
How many blasts does Mack have? I guess he's going to have a couple.
I can check real quick. 2 Pyroblasts in his sideboard.
Okay. I can definitely see those coming in then.
Yep. It's like after the Grand Prix, when everyone tested versus Reed's deck as Miracles, they realized the reason they lost was they didn't have enough blasts versus him. And also, no one knew what was in Reed's deck except Reed. Which is...
I mean, that's a huge advantage.
That is a huge... Reed spent the 2 weeks before the Grand Prix just playing versus nothing but Miracles on Moto. Because everyone was playing it, except for him.
I wonder what he's going to play at Vegas. Like, people have asked him on Twitter, and he mentioned that the Elves, for example, is a very real possibility. And I always love to see him play Elves. So.
Oh, yeah. Him and Cuneo really love Elves quite a bit.
Yeah, Cuneo, I've also seen doing really well with Elves on Magic Online. Every once in a while, he tops 8 some Legacy Challenge or something.
Yep. He's been playing a bunch of Infect lately as well, I believe.
Yeah, in fact, as I like to call it, like the cousin of Elves, like it feels playstyle-wise, it's very similar, and it's a kind of deck that I also always wanted to play.
Yep. A friend of mine switched from Storm to Infect. I joked with him, "You're just counting to 10 in a different way."
That's a very good point. Okay, so we see the 2 blasts coming in, and another Supreme Verdict, the Moat.
Those are quite good cards.
How does Nick get rid of Moat? Does he have Pulse?
He has a Golgari Charm.
And that's it?
Honestly, Moat might not even be on his radar.
But he can fly over with Baleful Strix, but that's the slowest clock in the world.
Yeah. Interesting. So... Nick has 1 Jace. Mack has 3. I'm just looking at card advantage spells because I think those are pretty important in the matchup. Nick also has a paintball
library, perhaps.
Yeah, sub-library.
I wonder about the Abrupt Decays. I don't think you want 4 post-boards.
Like I would leave in some number to catch the Crucible, I think.
Yeah.
But, like, obviously you don't need all 4. Meanwhile, Mack is trying to figure out what he wants to actually cut to fit in these Pyroblasts. Like, it's very clear that Pyroblast is going to be super potent in this matchup.
So what are actually the worst cards from in the matchup? Like, how good is Engineered Explosives? Like, technically, you can take out Leopold for free, basically.
Yeah,
or like...
I mean, that's just so slow, though. Yeah. It looks like Mack shaved a bunch of spell snares and is considering... He's considering shaving his namesake card, which is Standstill. But it is worth noting on the draw that the card loses a lot of its potency.
That's true, even though he's got 7 1-mana removal spells, and even Pyroblast is not a removal spell in the first turn. But he's got ways of setting up Standstill, even on the draw.
But I think it's a side-out one. Okay, so we have...
potential turn to Leopold for Nick.
So an actual turn to Leopold for Nick if the Deathrite doesn't die.
Yeah, do you kill the Deathrite here?
Do I what?
I mean, do you kill the Deathrite here? Because you get Supreme Verdict, you might want to induce him to commit more to the board, play more creatures, and then have your uncountable Wrath. He's not there yet, mana-wise, but he's probably going to get there.
So one downside to that is, what if your opponent just goes Liliana?
Yeah, that's what you're really scared of. Yeah.
Or like something similar like that. Also, his hand can't actually cast. Well, he needed to draw another colored source to cast Supreme Verdict, guaranteed. But I think I would almost always kill the death right here.
Kill the bird.
Yeah, bolt the bird.
That's the line.
I think it's just way too risky to, like, you're just playing with fire if you let that resolve.
And if the creature that comes down isn't True Name on the third turn, then you can still Snapcaster Mage Lightning Bolt it, even though that sucks against Leovold, but...
Yep.
Yeah. I guess at that point he's just gonna go to turn 4 and take out Leovold.
Right.
Oh, that's... Do you stand still here? I don't know. You
I would say no. I mean, I don't know, but the reason I would say no is I guess we have a bunch of land drops lined up. So, and also keep in mind, standstill I think is actually one of those playstyle based things. You saw Nick aggressively crack the standstills before, so you might just aggressively crack it again.
Yeah, if he wants to aggressively crack it, this is the best point because Counterspell isn't up yet. So he can go for some big play and only loses that to Force of Will, and at that point the stance is already less potent anymore. So because you're making up card advantage.
So I've reconsidered it. I think it's actually fine to just play the standstill here.
Yeah. You think he's gonna play Leovold or True Name here?
Looks like Leovold. I think both are just great here, so wow. He drew another Supreme Verdict, so he just lets this resolve, I think.
Yeah.
The only way to get punished by this is Wasteland next turn. Let's see how many Wastelands Nick... Oh, I don't have this list in Skype. How many Wastelands does Nick have is the question. Because a Wasteland is really good here.
Have we even seen Nick aggressively Wasteland yet? Like, I don't know. With this deck.
I think we haven't.
Oh, he's going for the bolt on Leovold? That's quite surprising. Huh.
Oh, he was going to have to discard if he didn't bolt. Nick has no Wastelands.
Okay.
Interesting. 10, 16, 19.
Okay, so...
Yeah.
Okay, so Nick has no Wastelands, but Mack doesn't know that yet. Even though like we didn't see any in the first game, but there could always be some, of course. Huh. I'm not sure whether I like the Lightning Bolt. I don't know. I mean, yeah, you have to discard. On the other hand, that makes Nick play something on next turn.
I was going to say, it actually incentivizes Nick to play another creature, because the reasoning is, if you're more likely to think Mack doesn't have Verdict in his hand if he's spending a removal spell on Leovold like that. Right?
I've been in that spot with Elves against Miracles many times. They go like Swords, Snapcaster Swords, and you're like, oh, they don't have Terminus floating. And yeah, and they do.
They just Terminus all your entire board.
Yeah. Interesting. Scavenging Ooze. And then probably either Baleful Strix or an activation of Deathrite.
Yeah. I'm not sure.
I mean, the current board attacks for 5 a turn, or even 6 if the ooze gets big enough.
Ooh, Pithing Needle. Do you crack the dice?
You probably have to, because you really need the second white for Supreme Verdict.
It actually did.
Oh, wow.
No, so it's okay. We had the explosives to kill it and Pithing Needle.
Otherwise, this could have been really sweet.
Yeah. And in fact, I think it actually makes the Verdict slightly worse that this happened, which is kind of funny in some ways. So the reason it makes Verdict worse is because Explosives kills one of the creatures. But there's so many creatures in Nick's deck that we're going to get a 2-from-1 out of this Verdict no matter what. Kept on top. He drew a fetch.
Yeah, at this point he's not going to commit any further to the board. Wait, did we miss something? Did Mack not play a land, or was that?
No, he. This is his turn 4.
Ah, okay. Yeah, okay, makes sense.
The question is, when do you crack the explosives?
I think you do it right away. On the other hand, you're probably not going to get to Snapcaster back one of those cards anyway, unless Nick taps out for something, which he probably won't because he's got a pretty big ooze here. Actually, what you should do is probably Lightning Bolt, yeah, because otherwise the ooze will grow out of Lightning Bolt range.
Yep.
And you really don't want to trade a single Supreme Verdict for the ooze.
I was thinking that it's actually pretty likely that Nick would play another creature next turn.
Would he? Because the ooze is already quite the clock. The ooze is at least 5/5 if he taps out completely.
Okay, so I guess that doesn't actually make any sense to make that play then.
Okay, so I guess now we're going to see True Name come down with Mack once again tapped out. A second True Name is good. It's just he really shouldn't overcommit there.
Well, again, has Nick actually seen the Supreme Verdict yet?
No, I think he hasn't seen any yet, but...
He's only seen Engineer Explosives, and one has been used already?
But I think you would expect for at least one or two, or maybe not two, but at least one Supreme Verdict to be there. It just feels really scary, especially since he can also go Engineer Explosives and crack it right away. Like, to play a second True Name there.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. I think I would have held out for the Verdict for one turn. We're still at 18. Like, you can afford to use your life to try to garner another card from your opponent, I think.
That's true. And now Nick can't actually cast a True Name because he's lacking the second white.
Yeah.
Blue, not white.
Yeah, but all the mana problems are fixed now.
Yeah. Oh, he puts away the... Yeah.
I would put C and Strix back, I think.
Yeah, so would I.
So for what it's worth, now that Nick knows that Mack has Supreme Verdict, that might alter plays in the future.
It might, but I think you still have to play True Name on the next turn because the Baleful Strix on its own is just too slow.
1/1 clock is not fast enough. Nowhere near fast enough.
Oh, and we might actually get to see an end of turn. What is he doing here? He's casting... Oh, main phase Factor Fiction, he wants the land drop?
Yeah, he just wants a land. 5 spells instead.
And there's Karanos. Karanos...
The point is actually not even that... Well, it's... I guess it's kind of bad.
The thing is, Nick doesn't know... Well, Nick can kind of deduce that Mack doesn't have a land in hand, because otherwise, why would he go for the main phase Factor Fiction there? Because otherwise, if you do the 4-1 split, he has to discard one of the cards, so it's only like a 3-1 split. But yeah. The Swords to Plowshares actually doesn't do very much here, so he's really just scared of the Karanos.
I would just take the 3 blue cards.
I agree. You're looking to just like kill the Baleful Strix as some casualty of using the Supreme Verdict for an important card.
Wow.
And he takes it too.
I guess it's just much easier to win the game with Karanos. Is the reason to take it.
Yeah, and thus far Nick hasn't really presented a way to kill Karanos.
No, I think Sultai or a Bug really Hydroblast it on the stack is the best way of killing it effectively.
Yeah, that's true. It's also indestructible. That's the point. Yeah, I was wondering about Pulse, but it's indestructible.
You just have to counter it.
I wonder if, assume Mack draws a land here. Oh, the Angler is nice, but I wonder how much he's willing to commit to the board here. But he probably has to. The thing is, he also knows that Mack has a Swords to Plowshares. This is tough.
I mean, Mack really is just firmly in the driver's seat. I think he can afford to 2-for-1 the other way multiple times and still probably be ahead on cards.
Mm. Do you verdict here now?
We're at 17. We take 7. I guess it kind of depends on what I draw. Yeah, I probably do now that I drew a lightning bolt.
Then you can force over whatever he draws if you have to, and if it's not a true nemesis, then you can probably even swords or lightning bolt it.
Yep.
And then you untap into maybe drawing a land and slamming Karanos. That's all. I like that.
So there are technically ways to kill Karanos in those colors. Unravel the Aether. The Glimmer. There's also Harmonic Convergence.
That makes you sacrifice enchantments?
No, it's 1 in a green. Each player puts enchantments on top of their libraries.
Okay.
So the point is, you do it with like a fetch land on the stack.
Yeah. Oh, it's an instant.
Yeah.
Okay.
From Urza block.
Okay. Well, Nick at least keeps drawing like big bombs, kind of. Like Tarmogoyf certainly forces the Swords to Plowshares now. Or actually, you could actually just play the Karanos.
I would tap out for Karanos, take 1 hit, and then just plow it next turn.
Yeah. I like that line. You also know that Karanos is guaranteed to resolve here on this board.
Yeah, because...
Imagine if Nick just draws, Berserk doesn't do it.
No, just wasting 5 mana is so much mana to waste.
Yeah, Kaluma, we pitched... No, somebody in chat asked, we pitched Snapcaster to keep the second Force of her. And Leopold, running top
so Leopold is not actually that good versus Karanos, unless if you know your opponent's going to flip only lands, in which case it's actually very good.
Oh, because then he doesn't do anything, right?
Yeah. Well, so here's the thing. With the Karanos trigger on the stack, you can actually decide whether or not to Lightning Bolt Leopold. You'll know what the card flipped is, and the mode will be locked in. So he's just going to use the Karanos ability to take down Leopold.
So basically, you don't get to draw an extra card, but your opponent is
No, you could, with the Karanos ability on the stack, you see that as a land, you just respond by lightning bolting the Leopold.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so you actually get to draw the card of the Karanos, I see. Yeah.
It's a very weird ability, because the ability is still on the stack, but you've already seen what the card drawn per turn is.
You sound like you've been in that position before.
I have in a limited Grand Prix versus Spirit of the Labyrinth. It was literally Spirit of the Labyrinth versus Karanos in limited.
Oh, that's Theros limited then. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they were both in the same draft format.
That's pretty cool.
It is very cool.
And Nick now finally drawing cards that don't really present anything. And now it's Mack starting the offense. And with Karanos in play and a Lightning Bolt in hand, the game could be over pretty quickly. Yeah, especially because Nick has to fight through another Force of Will.
Yep.
This seems almost unwinnable now for Nick.
Nick would need something like Thrun here.
Yeah.
I don't think Thrun would be good enough, really, because the Karanos will just eventually draw Max so many cards.
Yeah, even once you get Crucible, Thrun doesn't matter anymore anyway. Then you can jump block forever. Or even if you get a second factory, you wouldn't need to jump block then, but Thrun survives.
Well,
but yeah.
No, Thrun regenerates.
Yeah. But if you get 2 factories, you need 3 factories to survive the Thrun, so you wouldn't stop missing land drops.
But he only has 1 Mistress Factory in his deck, right?
Oh, I thought the joke was that he has 1 kind of a manland in his deck, but he still has 4 Mistress Factories? Or does he literally only have a single waste manland? That would be crazy.
I'll check real quick.
Because people say he's got only a single base.
Factory.
Literally only a single factory. Oh my god!
If you're only going to play one creature land,
that's
kind of think it shouldn't be Mishra's Factory because factories get better in multiples.
What else would you play? Fairy Conclave?
Fairy Conclave costs twice as much to activate. The reason to play Mutavault, I think, is if your opponent is off chance playing Merfolk, then your Mutavault gets pumped by Lord of Atlantis to Island Walk all over them.
I guess at some point you could just play Urza's Factory. That's slow.
Much mana to activate.
Yeah, I think it costs like 7. So basically, you need 8 lands in play for it to work.
Yeah, to make an assembly worker.
Oh, Nick also has Snapcaster Mages? What's going on? Or is that Max Snapcaster Mage? Oh, yeah, it's Max Snapcaster Mage, and Nick goes for the Hardcast Ports.
AKA Traumatic Visions.
Yeah.
And then we see a Force back because just you do have to get this Glyph off the table. Oh man, this is a great game.
Caleb is making a good point. Why not make it Inkmoth Nexus? Like if you're repeatedly blocking with Crucible of Hearts.
-1 counters on your opponent's creatures.
Like Tarmogoyf.
Also, funnily enough, like Inkmoth Nexus can win through like infinite life combo if someone's playing that.
Has that ever been a thing in Legacy? Like there were variants of Satellite Breakfast where people did it.
Yeah. There used to be a bunch of hybrid lists that had both Sutured Ghoul like combo and also Nomads Encore, Daru Spiritualist, and Worthy Cause.
Yeah, and like what was it called? Starlit Sanctum, where you could sacrifice a creature and gain life. Yeah.
Worthy Cause was the instant speed version of that from Tempest Block.
It's where you have to also sacrifice a creature? I think I remember that.
It's just a white instant. As an additional cost, sacrifice a creature. Gain life equal to its toughness. But it also has like buyback 3.
Yeah. That's what I was wondering. Somehow we're not seeing that deck anymore. It literally dies to any kind of hate you could throw at it.
Well, I thought Grand Abolisher sort of made it slightly better, but not good enough, I think.
I've been burned by that like one time, but that was also like 7 years ago where someone activated Vile on 2 at my end of turn, and I was like, or on his turn, and I was like, yeah, sure, and then I was dead.
I mean, Grand Abolisher is like a really good hate bear.
Maybe you should try it in other decks. Is it like City in a Bottle technically, or does it only extend to spells and you can still use abilities?
I don't remember. But here's a Leovold, which is going to get exploded.
And is he going to go for the play that you mentioned? No, I think.
It's kind of an obscure play. Like, if you haven't seen it before, you don't know. Like, or he could be auto-yielding to the ability.
Oh, yeah.
Well, so if you're going to do that, you should have
done that, yeah.
With the trigger on the stack. But I think Mack is so far ahead that, it doesn't really matter what he does.
Yeah. Unfortunately for Nick, after winning his group, he's not out. He just lost this game. There's still one more match coming up.
Yep.
And we already know, but at least I already know it's gonna be Moonstompy, and I'm really looking forward to Nick bringing this deck. But before that,
I think that one, but that's gonna be a sweet one.
Oh, that's gonna be so sweet. I'm so happy that he picked this deck, and it's gonna be a ton of fun. I actually played a similar version of this recently on Magic Online, and I had tons of fun. And I guess now you know which deck I tested against you. Anyway, we've got another.
I would guess you would pick a Blood Moon deck versus me because those decks are so good in game 1.
Yeah. Anyway, we got another raffle coming up. Once again, sponsored by Card Hoarder, who are making all of this possible. Like, without Card Hoarder, we wouldn't be running this league. And they have agreed to do a second raffle. And this is for either 10 tickets or a store credit of 10 tickets on their Magic Online card store, or a real-life $10 credit on Isle of Cards, which is their... I think it's a brick-and-mortar store, or at least a store that sells paper cards. So you just type $card hoarder into the chat, and you'll be entered into a raffle. And yeah, for your chance to win either $10 of store credits with Isle of Cards, or 10 tickets of store credits with the MTG, like the card hoarder bots. So people are already streaming in. Everybody wants to participate.
I actually think I mentioned earlier that I think Moon Stompy was one of the best decks versus like Landstill.
Yeah, you did. And so, I remember because I knew that Nick had this deck left. And I was
just guessing. Like, I was just thinking of, like, what are really good cards versus those types of decks? And Blood Moon is one of them for sure.
Okay, so I'm going to pick the winner now. You've got like 10 more seconds to enter $card hoarder, and then we'll find out who wins either $10 of stock credit or 10 tickets stock credit. And the now everybody streams in again. Okay, and the winner is gonna be Mod_Pestilence. Congratulations, you are the winner. If you can, please like click my name and message me, and then we'll figure out and deliver whatever you want. Guys, it's too late. You already picked the winner. Mike, you should switch the scene.
Rigged.
Rigged. Okay, I think I'm going to be out now, and we'll have Thomas Keating, I think, coming in as a commentator.
I'm also getting out. It's Anurag and Tom. So.
Okay. So let's see whether Nick can mount the reverse all kill and book his spot in the semifinals.
Yep.
Okay, see you guys.
See you.
Anurag playing with your hair.
Oh yeah, gotta be much better. All right, there we go.
And Anurag has a grooming routine before casting.
Very, very much so. I'm so excited. It's been a while since I've done this, so
yeah.
By a while, I mean like a couple weeks.
Hey, I think I saw on your stream or somewhere that like someone was saying that you broke the Jace thing in the background. Is that true?
That?
Yeah.
I don't think so. It's still there. It still works. Okay. What's weird is that my camera's not. Is my camera in focus for you?
It is. Also, Anurag, I don't know if you know this, but I think we're on the stream already.
Are we live? Can people hear us?
Everyone saw you.
Oh wow! What? All right, that took me. Well, sweet. My secret grooming routine has been spoiled. We good to go? All right, sweet. Guys, welcome back. We are in for, I guess this is match 3 out of potentially 5. We have Nick Feola switching to Big Red Stompy. So pretty excited to see how this match goes. Looks like both players have already started. Keating, why don't you tell me a little bit about this deck? What is this Big Red Stompy really good at doing?
Yeah, this is a sweet deck. So this deck is really good at getting an early amount advantage using cards like Simian Spirit Guide, some of the soul lands like City of Traders or Ancient Tomb, and then casting these big Haymaker lock pieces like Chalice of the Void, Trinisphere, and Blood Moon.
Okay, so you're telling me that this is a very unfair, not looking to play, the traditional sort of creature-on-creature magic?
Yeah, that's absolutely right. Like this deck is very happy to just kind of dump its hand onto the board and just hope one of the lock pieces is enough to keep their opponent off balance.
Very nice, very nice. And if I guess we get to see one spicy card already in Nick's hand, and that is a new card from Amonkhet. It's what is it? Hazoret
the Fervent. Yeah.
The Fervent. Okay, all right. And that seems pretty strong. Getting into the match now. Looks like Mack is going to be on a mulligan to 6 cards, but he's going to lead with Flooded Strand. And what do you think Nick's turn 1 is going to be?
So let's see. We're looking at Nick's hand. We have the City of Traders, which is a Soul Ring, and then we have a Simian Spirit Guide, which allows him to get up to 3 mana. So I'd be inclined if I were him to just drop that Trinisphere right down, but he's going to play it a little slower. I guess he knows his opponent's deck, and he's maybe worried about Force of Will or something. I'm not quite sure, but I guess he also is concerned that maybe if he drops City of Traders on turn 1, he has to then sacrifice it on turn 2 and can't play another 3-drop on the next turn. And the 3-drop spot is really the sweet spot for the deck.
Right. Okay. Well, it looks like he's gonna by his turn 2 play is gonna be a Trinisphere. He's picking up another City of Traders for the turn, and Mack is gonna let this card resolve. He had the option Counterspell, but honestly, I think Mack has a lot of lands in his hand. He's also looking at that copy of Jace the Mind Sculptor, which is conveniently not affected by the Trinisphere. So
right.
There's definitely a validation in not hitting the countering the Trinisphere.
Yeah, I think I might have been inclined to try and go for a turn 1 Trinisphere or turn 1 Magus of the Moon, just to try and get under the ability to actually hardcast counterspells, but he went for a little slower route.
Okay.
So now he's going for the Moon, and I think we're going to see a pretty clear and clean Fetch an Island and Counterspell.
Okay, and I like this because he's got both the Tundra and the Plateau in his hand, so it's okay to fetch for the Flooded Strands. Next turn, likely he's going to slam Jace and go to the Mind Sculpting Town.
Yeah, this is going to be looking pretty rough for Nick right here.
Yeah,
the Big Red deck is great, but it really does need to just kind of go all out on turn 1. I think holding back can be pretty difficult choice to make, and if you can, I think I like just making them have the Force of Will or something.
Right, and yeah, I mean, so that let's say he had played the Magus or the Trinisphere on turn 1, this game would have been completely different, but looking at the board state right now, it seems that Nick has a special card in his hand that I am hoping that he gets to cast next turn, and that card is Fiery Confluence. That Jace the Mind Sculptor in play, not going to be there for too long.
That's true. So one of the things I think about this Big Red deck is why you're seeing it more now is that it's got a lot of really big upgrades in terms of the threats it's been able to play. So it's gotten things like it's got things like Sin Prodder, which allow you to draw cards while having a threat. It's gotten things like Goblin Robblemaster that really just pressure people's life totals. And it's got Fiery Confluence, which is a great 4-mana spell that has these 3 modes that allows you to do a lot of different things. One of those modes is to deal 2 damage per choice to your opponent. And so you can do that and then redirect it to a Planeswalker, which is what we're about to see right here.
Mm-hmm. And so this Jace is not long for the world, but fortunately Mack has a second Jace in his hand to play as backup, and I don't think Nick has an answer to this one yet. I got to look up what this new card does, because honestly, what is it? Hazaret the Fervent. Can this card kill Jace?
So I think it allows you to pitch cards to deal damage.
Okay.
I think it becomes a creature if you have fewer than 1 or fewer card in your hand. I'm not looking, but that's what I think it does. So it should allow him to kill it if it resolves. And it's not a nice thing about it is if it's not a creature, it's not destructible, or it's indestructible. So that means you can't Supreme Verdict it when it's not a creature.
Okay. Well, you can't Supreme Verdict it, I imagine, even if it is a creature, but definitely Swords to Plowshares is the one target you do get to dodge.
Yeah, I guess you're right. It doesn't lose indestructible.
But I mean, if I'm in his position, I guess I would just slam Hazaret right now. The shields are somewhat down. You may want to play around Spell Pierce potentially, but I don't think this game is going to get better as it goes if it goes longer, because that active Jace is going to cause a lot of headaches.
Yeah, I think you really need to try and get the Hazaret resolved.
Yeah.
And shields are kind of down right now. The only counterspell he could have is a Force of Will. And once down, the only solution is Swords to Plowshares, which granted, Mack does have a lot of it in his deck, and he has Snapcast just to flash it back. So,
right. And so now I think Nick is debating on whether to play the City of Traders or a combination of the Spirit Guide and the Mountain to cast his Hazaret. But it definitely looks like that's what's what's going to take up his turn, casting this 4-mana legendary creature.
And someone's pointing out in chat actually that even if Mack did have Force of Will, the Trinisphere wouldn't let him cast it, because the way that Force of Will and Trinisphere interact is that it actually has a converted a casting cost of 0, I guess, when you use the alternate cost. You actually do additionally have to pay 3 for it if you're casting it with a Exile.
Oh, very sure. Missed that, yeah. So it looks interesting. So he just goes for... Oh, because he has to pay 3 mana for the Chrome Mox. Okay, this is interesting.
Yeah, I don't really understand that play. He's not really pinched on mana, I don't think.
He might be just trying to set up for a later turn. I mean, there's definitely there's definitely validity in this play. I personally would have played the Hazoret, but let's see how this goes.
I guess his thought process here might be that he wants to play the Hazoret and also pitch a card to shock the Jace. And so if he does this, he'll have 7 mana next turn, which I believe allows him to cast the Hazoret and throw a card and shock.
Okay, so here's one slight downside to
not... true. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, yeah, sorry. Here's one downside to not playing the Hazoret, and that is now Mack has Snapcaster Counterspell available.
Yeah, he does, even through Trinisphere, because the Snapcaster will cost 3 and the Counterspell will cost 3, which is, I think, why I wanted to go for Hazoret last turn when the shields were down. That being said, I guess what he was setting up is that if you played Hazoret here, played a land, and then pitched something and shocked, the Hazoret would become a creature and it has haste, so it would actually be able to attack as well.
So the cost to activate is 2 and a red, though, right? To discard the card?
True, but he can play I guess he can't play a land. Or he can't play a land here, but I guess he only has 2 mana then. Yeah, you're right. I wonder if perhaps he miscalculated on I wonder if he thought that he could pitch something else to Chrome Mox and then thought he could discard the Simian Spirit Guide to get the extra mana, but then he realized you have to imprint it because you have to imprint a color.
Okay, yeah, I see what you're saying. So discard the Simian Spirit Guide. Theoretically, if you could imprint the bridge and then, okay, yeah, that makes sense. But sadly, what's going to happen is this Hazoret's going to get countered, and now it just seems like Mack's in the driver's seat once again, which is always a great position to be in as the control deck.
Yeah, so I guess here he has this, he's set up, he has his Planeswalker, his card advantage engine, he's got some Snapcasters and some removal. So, well, and then Force of Factor Fiction. So
if you're so those 2 piles, it looks like Mack took the 2 counterspells, which personally I would have done the same. What
I don't know why you would set them. Well, I don't think I would have set the piles up like that, but I would have absolutely taken the counterspells. Once you have those 2 counterspells, I don't see how you lose here. Now you have a counter wall that's just, insurmountable.
Right. So I guess if you don't put the 2 counterspells together, then you're pairing a counterspell with one of the 2 counterspells with an engineered explosives, which gets rid of maybe the ensnaring bridge that Nick wants to keep protected. Theoretically buy him draw steps. Maybe he'll get another Hazoret, assuming there's multiple copies in the deck.
Yeah, I guess I don't actually didn't get a chance to see much of his list, so I don't know if there is a second copy of Hazoret, but that could be true.
Yeah. There was that one copy of Quicksmith Rebel. I've honestly never seen this card before, so I'm curious to see what its applications are and the like. But
so I know that I've played with it in I guess in Aether Revolt Limited, and it was really that and the blue one that allowed you to draw a card by tapping artifact were really good. So I could see it doing some work, but I have a feeling that even that would not be enough at this point.
Right, and we see that Mack is straight, not even brainstorming anymore with Jace the Mind Sculptor. It's just +2ing targeting Nasty Nick and controlling draws for the next, well, probably for the rest of the game. Once Jace hits 13, he's primed to ultimate, exile all of Nick's graveyard, and cause Nick to deck out. Sorry, deck, not right. Graveyard. Yeah,
yeah. I think that's the path that we're headed to. Although there's a lot of Snapcaster tier 2 and there's bolts, so you could just turn the corner at some point and decide, I'm just going to play my Snapcaster bolt.
Yeah. So I don't know. And you can't believe. Yeah, never mind. Ooh, this is a good draw though. Fiery Confluence.
So I have to admit, I'm actually lagging here a little bit. I can't quite see what's on the stream, but Fiery Confluence would be a pretty sweet one. I guess you can get a lot of damage on the Jace or kill the Snapcaster.
Yeah, I mean, in theory, you at least buy some draw steps. One thing that I noticed about Fiery Confluence the hard way, just interesting fun fact, is that if you choose the mode to destroy an artifact, be careful that you don't really like completely rely on destroying that artifact to deal the burn damage, because it says, I mean, that's the only mode that actually selects a target. Right. There was one time somebody tried to fiery confluence my Sensei's Divining Top, rest in peace. And I was like, oh, so you want to kill this and kill my Jason? I was like, all right, well, I'll just tap top. And
yeah, I guess they were trying to get a little too fancy there. I mean, that was one of the top so powerful, was that not only was it cheap to have this dead library manipulation, but it also it was impossible to get rid of.
Yeah,
or at least very difficult.
All right, so we're going to move to sideboard here. Looks like Mack is up a game in what might just be the final match of this quarterfinal round. Are we going to get back-to-back 3-0 sweeps? Well, let's dive into the sideboards here. So if you are playing as let's start with Nick. Nick, if you're playing as Nick, how would you sideboard here?
So I have to say, I'm not quite sure. What do you think?
All right. Well, I can't tell what's going on too much, but I definitely do like that there's a Koth the Hammer in the main deck, or in the 60 going in post board. That card is a house. I used to play against it a lot with Miracles, and every time it resolved, either I was in control already and I just like plowed all my opponent's lands and then just like, 1 mana stone rain them, or I just got brutally massacred. So Koth the Hammer, extremely powerful. Looks like he's boarding out some copies of Magus of the Moon. I guess since deck lists aren't public, I'm okay with this.
I guess he's also seen a lot of basics. He's seen a lot of islands, and almost all the spells are blue in Max deck.
Yeah, I wonder after all these matches if Nick picked up that he hasn't seen a basic plains or a basic mountain. Basic mountain probably doesn't matter as much, but
yeah.
So I could see him justifying taking out the moons because it's not really that great against basic island. And looking on Mack's
side, here we go.
Yeah, looking on Mack's side just really quickly, we see that he boarded in some wear tears, which are going to be very good against the artifact stompy deck.
Yeah, that's very true, especially since it has enchantments and artifacts that are both relevant. So you could even get the double tag. So I guess in Nick's starting hand here, he'll be on the play, and he threw it back. So I guess it doesn't matter what he had, but he had a couple of artifact accelerants and some other stuff. But this is a pretty slow hand we're looking at here. It doesn't do anything until turn 2, whereas that deck really wants to put a Haymaker down on turn 1. But I think he's going to keep it.
True.
Looks like he does. Volcanic Fallout, that's an interesting one.
That is interesting. And we'll have to look into that card in a little bit. What's interesting though, and this is something that I find fundamentally it's like one of the potential weaknesses of the Stompy style decks, is that you really want to your game plan is always to start big, right? On turn 1 and 2, you want to set up some sort of really hard to answer lock. So in this case, we see Trinisphere. Sometimes we also have Chalice of the Void or, Blood Moon, or cards that are really hard to answer, and then use those powerful cards to buy time. And wow, I think this Chrome Mox is just a turn too late. Sorry. But using the lock pieces to buy time, eventually you draw the rest of your deck and you slowly prison / kill your opponent. The problem is if this early, if you have, just a few number of lock pieces, or you have to invest too much into, getting your lock pieces out early, post board when your opponents will be bringing in answers and they're able to answer them maybe earlier rather than later, you get in this tricky situation where you've got no cards in hand and not too much threatening material going on.
Yeah, that's what we see right here. So he did get a lock piece down. It was on turn 2. And I guess that was just as good as turn 1 here because Mack didn't have a turn 1 play. But nonetheless, he only has 2 cards in hand and doesn't have a big threat to follow this up with. So we'll see what the return here is. So if you're Mack, what do you want to be casting on turn 3? Are you holding up something to try and hit the wear on the Trinisphere EOT? Are you trying to just cast the standstill? What are you thinking?
Honestly, I don't think this is the right position to cast. I mean, I see the argument for casting the standstill. The problem is you don't have lands right now, and when you're casting standstill, you really want to be able to just make your land drops every single turn. This Trinisphere is still problematic. I'm very interested in getting it off the board as soon as possible. I mean, let's see what's going on. So Nick has 2 cards in hand, so I don't feel exactly threatened right now. There's also an argument for casting the Brainstorm sooner rather than later. But really, I think the most likely play here is just going to be like an end of turn smash.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. I like holding up and keeping some options. You can go for a Brainstorm if they happen to find something that you are really worried about and you need to find a Force of Will, or you can go for a Wear Tear EOT, which I think is what's going to happen here. You're going to see him wear the Trinisphere. So let's see. So then he untaps, and if you don't hit a land, I guess you cast Brainstorm. And if you do hit a land, you probably just play it and pass.
If you hit a land and it's a red source, I'm not opposed to just slamming Jace right now.
Okay.
And yeah, I mean, you have a couple options. You can either slam Jace or you can, hold up Counterspell. In this situation, you're just so far ahead. You've got more lands in play. You've got more cards in hand. I'm a huge proponent, actually, of just playing the Jace, and that's what Matt chooses to do. And it seems like he's going to Fate Seal because he feels that much in control, which is really that's like an intimidating sign if I'm sitting across the table. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't disagree with casting Jace there at all. And you've played a lot more Jaces in your day than I have, so I'm not going to argue on that one. I would have given some thought to Factor Fiction, holding that up and holding Counterspell up, because you do know that he has so much burn in his deck that he can just come back and just take the Jace out. But I mean, even that being said, now even with the way that this developed, it's not a real big, this is not a travesty for Mack. He can just untap, and he's still got 5 great cards in his hand to two cards.
Yeah, no, actually, and now that I think about it a little bit more, maybe your line about holding up Counterspell Factor Fiction is just better. And this is an interesting play. Okay, all right. I like playing the Standstill.
Okay. So he goes for the Standstill, which I guess is a good situation. And I guess if you know the big red deck, you know that they don't have any mad lands, or they usually don't play any mad lands. Mm-hmm. And so you do know that at some point he's going to have to break it. And you're in a position, I guess, to just stock up your hand and just keep passing the turn and hope to draw a man land so that he does have to do it sooner rather than later.
Yeah, actually, you know what? I'm going to take that back. I don't necessarily think I would play the Standstill there. On further thought, I would rather just at least play the Factor Fiction first, because that's it's like velocity in some form, while also holding up the Counterspell. Nick doesn't really have that much action going on right now because he's just not been doing anything for the past few turns. So he's drawing off the top of his deck, and you have one Counterspell to answer that. So I think in retrospect, I'd probably just dig deeper, find something, and then play the Standstill later.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. I would have just gone for the Factor Fiction EOT. Even if I had played the Jace, then I would have gone for the Factor Fiction next turn. Perhaps he was thinking that if he stocks up with Factor Fiction, he'll be close to 6 or 7 cards. So if he does want to play the Standstill on the next turn, he's going to have to discard when it's broken. But I still would have favored Factor Fictioning there.
Yeah.
Okay, so there was a draw from Nick, and he's going to go and try and break the Standstill. So this is Chandra Torch of Defiance, one of the new Planeswalkers to have an effect on Legacy.
Mm-hmm. This card is absolutely insane, and I'm so happy it was printed.
Yeah, it's really good. It's got so much text on it. It's just all red.
When's the last time we had a 4 mana Planeswalker? What, Garrick, the black-green one?
So getting ally Zendikar, I think, is a 4 mana 4 Planeswalker.
Oh, no, I meant with like 4 abilities.
Oh, 4 abilities, yeah, probably. And Garruk Relentless, to get 4 abilities, you need to look at the backside, which doesn't really count. It's got to be on one side. Yeah, no, they definitely pushed Chandra, and it's definitely a good card. But, you broke the Standstill and then draw 3, and there was a Counterspell right there, and now there's going to be a Snapcaster Counterspell on the flashback, and now Mack's got a clock on the board.
Yeah, and it looks, this Hazard was a great top deck for Nick, but unfortunately, cracking the Standstill has just given Mack mono counterspells, mono action, basically, and I feel like this is what we were looking at, the exact same situation we had last game, where Mack is just so gassed up that, like, even now does he have to discard yet? No, I would rather just, cast the explosives for 0 and destroy the Chrome Mox than discard, which is saying a lot because that explosive has a lot of utility and, like, stopping hate bears and random. So the point being that, Mack is, again, to use the phrase, firmly in the driver's seat
Yeah, what's interesting is I've been pretty impressed looking at the standstill deck in these last 3 matches. I mean, he's looked to be in the driver's seat for almost all of them. There was some back and forth when he was playing against the Reduke style bug, I don't know what to call it, the bug mid range deck with all the 3-drops, bug 3-drops.
Bug 3-drops.
But other than that, he's looked like having pretty stocked hands most of the games that we've been in.
Seems like, and there's the Quicksmith Rebel. Sadly, it's not going to be doing too much right now, but...
So, I guess you probably... Do you Force of Will this here? I think I hardcast Force of Will, because otherwise he gets to tap something and kill your Snapcaster, and although you don't need the Snapcaster to win, there's lots of other ways you can win. It is nice to just be clocking your opponent every turn right now.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, if I really need to just get like a cardboard cutout of a ham sandwich so I can just be like, instead of just saying like, he could do whatever he wants at this point. He could win with a ham sandwich.
Yeah, I mean that's part of the power of Snapcaster Mage is that you get the flashback of relevant spell in your graveyard that almost always is a great answer when you do that, and then at the same or digging for another answer if you're hitting a cantrip, and then it's still a ham sandwich that you can beat your opponent with right after that.
Right, and so we see Mack is going to go directly for the throat here. He's going to Fate Seal. I didn't see what the card was, but I imagine he's got control over it. 1 card in hand, drawing 1 card to 2 cards. The all right, Tomb, Ancient Tomb.
Oh, okay. I guess he's marking down what
This is the message from the tech savvy gods from above. We don't mention their names directly. We only bow down and hope things go well.
Gotcha.
I'm not a loser, I swear. These are scripted lines. I didn't write them. All right, but yeah, it looks like okay, there we go. All right, Volcanic Fallout getting some value.
Yeah, clearing up those 2 creatures, and I guess it hits players. It also deals 2 to Jace, which I guess not particularly relevant right now because he's still alive. But yeah, if he top decks some more burn, I guess I think one thing you'd want to see here is I think he wants to see another Hazoret. So maybe that card's just pretty good in this deck.
I think it's respectably good, but at this point, like the only thing I want to see off the top is like. Okay, let's see. So my plan doesn't even work. I was gonna say like Chalice for 5 or 2 or something, and then
with Force of Will plus blue cards in his hand and a Jace on the board, empty board. I mean, there's not a lot of things that work here.
Yeah, I mean at this point, Mack is just gonna flex however he wants because he hit the gym pretty hard. So.
Yeah. So I guess he's on the Fate Seal plan now. He Fate Sealed the Ancient Tomb to the top, and I think I saw another tomb or another land. Oh no, it was a Chalice. Okay. Or maybe he bought him the other card. I don't know.
Yeah.
So what do you cast the Chalice on? Cast it on 1?
Well, yeah. I mean, I would definitely. I guess two is reasonable, but it's pretty juicy. Okay, actually, you know what? If I was in Mack's situation, I definitely would have left the Chalice on top because this sweet 4-for-1 engineered explosives is just going to be like utter obliteration, like sending a message like no one has before.
Hasn't he sent some pretty clear messages already so far,
Stop, Mack. This guy has a family. He's got kids to feed.
Yeah, this is the second match. Or I guess rather this is the third match of the second set, I believe.
Yeah. 6th match of the night. And
I think it's going to be a clean sweep. I guess 3 matches for Bondi and then 3 matches for Doyle.
Yeah.
Their matches, yeah.
Right. So that means we know Michael is going to be playing against either Julian or Jarvis. And then assuming nothing like, catastrophically happens in the next, maybe 3 minutes or so, 4 minutes, Mac Doyle will be playing against either Bob or... Who's Bob playing against? Oh, Caleb.
I haven't studied the brackets, but that sounds right.
Yeah. I really, go ahead. Yeah, what?
No, go ahead. Ideally, you.
Okay, ideally, and I know this is weird, but I've had this movie idea in my head for like I don't know, maybe like ever since I met Bob and found out Bob, like his friends affectionately call him Katana Bob, and as soon as I heard that, the first thing I thought was, whoa, what if there's a movie featuring Bob Wong as Katana Bob? And like his arch nemesis is Jarvis, but not just any Jarvis. It's like a Robo Octo Jarvis pod something. And so I really want the finals to be like Katana Bob versus like Octo Jarvis. And like, like it'd be like the sweet, my dreams would come true. So
well, you know what'd be really sweet is that I don't know if you've been seeing them, but there've been these sweet posters for the like these movie poster styles for the each week of the Legacy Premier League. So if it does come down to Jarvis v Bob, I'm pretty sure that the man behind the curtain, Mike, could hook you up with a nice poster like that.
Well, who is Mike?
Mike, the guy who's basically putting all the show on for us. I believe he runs all the tech and makes sure that everything is looking great and does all the nice graphics and makes sure that everything looks cool.
Wow, Mike, you must be very talented because this show has been super sweet so far. And honestly, like we get back to the match, it's been more of the same. Jay's slowly ticking up. The just like diminishing returns now at this point. Like how much hope he's extracting from Nick. Next turn, Jay's gonna ultimate.
This is where you like just look at your keyboard or your cards if you're in person, and you're like, wow. I don't know what led me to this point, but this is just a drubbing. And you're like, why did I not play blue cards?
But this is, and I'll take a minute here. Like I used to play Miracles, and I probably still play Miracles. Shh, don't tell anybody. But I was really sad that Drago Control sort of just like died, when they banned top. But looking at this blue-eye red Landstill deck, I mean, this looks pretty sweet. Like if I wanted to just sit back and cast mono counter spells and removal spells and stuff like that.
Which, knowing you, Anurag, you do want to do that.
I do. It seems like a really good place to start, and it looks like, whoa! All right. Wait, whoa! What the hell? Oh my God!
I believe you're becoming a ghost. This is what the power of the man behind the curtain.
This is amazing, ungodly power.
Yeah. Okay, so congratulations to Mack Doyle. He won that quarterfinals with quite a strong showing from Blue White Red Landstill. So why don't you tell us a little bit more about what you see ahead in the brackets here?
Yeah. Side note, congratulations also to Michael Bondi, 3-0ing as well. We still don't know what two other decks both of these players submitted, but it looks like next week we're going to have Bob Wong versus Caleb Durward. Okay, that's going to be a phenomenal best of 5.
Yeah, helicopter.
Yeah, and then we're gonna have Jarvis playing against Julian Nab, so that's gonna be also a phenomenal best of 5. Let's just take a second here. What decks, if you had to think about what decks these guys would be playing, what would you peg them on submitting next week?
Bob and Caleb.
Bob, Caleb, Jarvis, and Julian.
Okay, so. I think that for Bob, he's going to bring some flavor of Delver. I think that's a given in Legacy. I think he maybe would bring one completely unfair deck that's just really doing something that's just not fair at all, just some broken deck. He likes to play those decks sometimes. I don't know what one he would choose. Perhaps Reanimator, I don't know. But one broken deck, and then for the third deck, I think he'd probably mix it up and maybe do something a little out of the norm for him.
Okay, all right. I like that. And then for Caleb, I mean, we've seen what Caleb's played so far. He played Miracles in the first thing. Do you think that's going to make a repeat appearance? We also know that Caleb is pretty famously known for, well, in my heart at least, for playing Tin Fins. I think those are two decks that I might expect him to play, but Legacy is a wide format. Nobody knows.
Right. Well, that's the beauty of Legacy is I think so far I'm not sure we've seen a repeat of a deck yet this evening. Is that true?
Well, we saw Agrolome twice, I think.
Oh, we saw Agrolome twice. That's correct, yeah.
But I mean, that is like more Agrolome than I would have expected for in a long while.
For the whole thing, yeah.
Yeah.
No, I think that I could see Caleb trying the new Unexpected Miracles or the what are we calling it? The one with the 4 predicts and the unexpected predictable miracles.
No, I mean, like, if anything, I'd call it unpredictable miracles or like unexpected miracles, because like unexpected probably the better one because it got banned and then it came back and blah blah blah. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah. I think especially since it runs unexpectedly absent, which apparently miracles is now not. It was expected to be absent, but now it is actually not. So
yeah,
expectedly present or unexpectedly present. So unexpected miracle.
The man behind the curtain is just making me look more and more evil. Like each chroma that he takes out, soon he's just gonna take out he's gonna filter on like the color of my skin, and then like I'll just be like a floating T-shirt. But yeah, looking at the other side of the bracket, we've got Jarvis, who I would put money on him playing lands. And honestly, Jarvis is a great player. He's been playing for a long time, very mechanically talented. He could put to any deck, he could pick any deck and he would do well with it. So while my gut says lands because that's what he's most well known for playing, that or Jarvus Delver. Jarvus
Delver. Yeah, has he played that recently? I haven't seen any lists for that popping up. I mean, I guess people have been playing Check Pile, which is a similar deck without Delver, so I guess maybe it's not that similar at all, and it doesn't run Wasteland, so I'm gonna take that statement back.
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't seen him play in a while, but honestly, he's like a Swiss Army knife, could play anything. Ooh, and we have a graphic up, so let's talk about this. I
guess this is a Twitter poll about who would advance before they started this evening, and so it looked like the betting was on Michael Bondi, and it seems that came true. So 71% of that Twitter voting pool were correct.
Yep, that is correct. And then on the other end,
look at this. The wisdom of the crowds here.
Yeah, the other end we have Mack winning 63-37. That's almost an overwhelming 2-1, and the prediction did come true. Now I'm interested to see. Well, let's call some shots here. Who do you think is going to win the first quarterfinals of next week? Do you think Bob's going to win, or do you think Caleb's going to win?
Ooh, that's a good question. I wonder if it depends on how much Caleb puts his try-hard pants on, because I know that Caleb likes to play these kind of off-the-wall decks and stuff. Mm-hmm. So I don't know how much of a drive he has to just win, or whether he wants to play some sweet decks. So that being said, they're both great players. I might give the slight edge to Bob, but if I do, it's not by a lot.
Ooh, all right. I was gonna say the exact same thing, but on the other side, I would vote for Caleb to win, mostly because I'm gonna scum Bob. He's my roommate after all. I got to make it hard for him. No, yeah. But
you should just run in and just jostle him when he's playing.
Yeah, exactly. I'll just peek my head in the background or something like that. I don't know. Yeah, actually, this is a really hard question to ask. I think it is a function of you're right. Caleb is definitely he brews a lot. He does a lot of cool experimental things. If he comes in with, just stock, what have you, I don't know if that increases or decreases his power level. So I think here's what I'll say. I don't know, this is so tough. Yeah, assuming Bob plays Delver and of some variety, and Caleb.
Which I think is a safe assumption.
Yeah, I think that's a safe assumption. If Bob plays Delver, I predict he's going to get at least one or two matches. At least one match. I'll give him that much. Probably
your
two.
Roommate Bob, you'll give him one match?
I'll give him one match.
So he's not going to get swept, is Honorog's prediction.
Yeah, so I don't think he's going to get swept, so I can say that much. But I think that's all I want to commit to right now. And then on the other end, honestly, Julian, I'm so sorry, but I think Jarvis is just going to straight murder you. Yeah, call the cops.
So let's see. So you said that you put betting money on Jarvis playing lands in one of his three, and I put betting money on Julian playing elves in one of his three. So
okay, yeah, definitely. Yeah.
If you were trying to fill out the other two, and you had to make an expected expectation or a bet on what Jarvis would play, what would the other two be?
Whoa. Sorry. So if I had to pick something else, what else would Julian play?
Either one, Jarvis or Julian.
Okay, well, for Julian, I do think Julian is to a degree one of the if outside of elves, which is his home. The second one would be
is shimmering in a really weird way right now.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I guess I'm in space on my favorite rocket ship through this. No, okay.
That would be hilarious. Julian was just commenting, what if they do the swap? See, and what if Jarvis starts with elves and Julian starts with red green lands? That would be
very, very nice. I like that. I was gonna say I think Julian is to a degree one of the best deck players. So I would say elves and then maybe Grixis Delver as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, Delver is a good solid choice all around. It's got game against broken stuff and game against fair stuff. So I could definitely see that being a strong choice. Mm-hmm. And I guess I could see Jarvis taking something like that as well, which would be interesting. So I guess.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I wasn't going to say anything.
So one thing that'd be interesting is that if that's what you expect, and let's say that Jarvis brings something like lands, a Delver variant, and a third one, I don't know, but pick your favorite. But what do you start? Like, what's the kind of the thought process that goes through your mind in terms of like what do you start with for the first match?
I definitely like something proactive. So I even though Mack did very well with blue eye red landstill, I think I would rather start with some combo oriented deck, something that just like I don't know, something like if I wouldn't mind starting with something like Storm or Sneak and Show or something that doesn't just like have miserable matchups all around. Even Grixis Delver wouldn't be too bad of a start, depending on where you want to be with that. Kaluma says,
I think that makes sense.
Yeah. And then if you win, great, you won because you're proactive. If not, then I would save maybe like a more reactive deck for your second match, because then you have more information. You know what you're playing against. Oh hey, the way I built this deck to beat this subset of other decks will be better going into match number 2.
That makes sense. I could see. I definitely see. Like, I agree with you wanting to be proactive. Or at least that's how I would approach it. But then I also feel that like a good combo deck that can just kind of kill you out of nowhere would be a good way to do that. Or playing a deck like Grixis Delver, as you said, that's kind of like pretty even against almost everything in the format. So that way you kind of give yourself a really good chance of getting off to a good start on match 1.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah. So on that note, I think we're going to probably close now, unless we have anything else. I don't think we do. I'd like to take another moment to thank our sponsors, Cardamon Jigs, Card Hoarder, and obviously the beautiful Matt Pavlik. Thank you guys for doing this. Without your help, we would not be having this great time. We would not be able to bring you any of this content. Legacy is a completely new format, and the people want to see more. They want to see how it is developing, rather. Keating, thanks for being here tonight. I hope that we'll get to commentate next week as well, next Thursday.
Yeah, this was great. I hope that we get to do that as well, and it's awesome that the Legacy Premier League is putting out such sweet Legacy content.
Sweet. And on that note, guys, good night. We'll see you next Thursday.
Good night, everybody. Until next time.
Bye.